In the high-stakes world of Silicon Valley startups, a brilliant young developer dared to dream big. He created an AI-powered platform that could revolutionize how people live, think, and stay healthy. But before he could launch it, betrayal struck. His own boss, jealous of his talent, stole the entire idea and claimed it as his own. Investors were fooled. Headlines were made. Fame changed hands. But the boss didn't know one thing. Hidden deep within the code was a secret, a silent line, a logic bomb, waiting. Only one person could control it. And now, as everything begins to fall apart, the real mind behind the machine is ready to rise. In California's Bay Area, where every cafe holds someone sketching their next unicorn idea, there was a small apartment where Ryan Mehta sat hunched over his laptop day and night. For him, coding wasn't just a job, it was passion, a mission, maybe even destiny. Ryan was barely 26. Born to Indian immigrant parents who gave him the best education possible in America, an MIT degree in computer science, followed by a coveted job at a top Silicon Valley tech firm. But Ryan believed more in his idea than in any job. Imagine a system that doesn't just understand your data, it predicts your future, Ryan often mumbled to himself while typing away. His startup idea was TruePulse, an AI and data analytics platform that could analyze a user's health, finances, behavior, and microdata to predict what they should do next. It wasn't just an app, it was a digital guide that understood users better than they understood themselves. Working tirelessly, Ryan developed a structure of code that was far faster than standard AI models and strikingly close to human thinking. His models focused on contextual adaptation, emotional prediction, and micropersonalization, concepts that, till then, mostly existed only in research papers. But Ryan knew that an idea alone wasn't enough. He needed a launchpad, resources, a team, and access to the right network. That's what brought him to the doors of a company called Vertex Innovations, where his senior from college and now his boss, Carson Blake, was the vice president of product. Carson was smart, charming, and deeply manipulative. He understood Ryan's skills and dedication well, but what attracted him more was Ryan's idea. Ryan showed Carson a demo, a simple scene where TruePulse predicted upcoming health changes for a user based on past data and behavior. Carson's eyes lit up, a faint smile played on his lips. Ryan, this could be bigger than ChatGPT, Carson said. Ryan smiled, full of hope. He believed Carson would help take TruePulse to investors. Carson even promised a team, funding, and full support with Ryan as the founder. But what no one knew was, this promise was going to become a trap, one that Ryan himself would walk into. Ryan worked day and night to develop a minimum viable product, MVP. The AI wasn't just reading data now, it was offering actionable suggestions based on behavioral analysis. It felt like mind reading, the system could predict the future based on a person's daily patterns. Carson labeled the project as top priority in internal meetings. Ryan was given a small team, but strangely, all reports were sent directly to Carson. Slowly, Ryan found himself being excluded from major project discussions. Then one day, Carson told him that the board had decided to stop funding TruePulse. "It's too early, Ryan. The market isn't ready for this." Ryan was stunned. His questions were brushed off. He was shifted to a dull internal project where he spent his days editing reports. But just weeks later, Ryan saw something that made his blood boil. Carson was being interviewed on TechCrunch, and right behind him on the screen was the same interface, the same model. TruePulse. "Our company is building the world's most intuitive AI assistant, Pulse Predict," Carson said, smiling into the camera. Ryan's fists clenched. His dream, his sweat and sacrifice, now being paraded under Carson's name. But Carson forgot one thing. Ryan didn't just know how to write code, he knew how to hide secrets in it too. It was a cold morning in San Jose. Ryan stood on the balcony of his apartment, sipping coffee, his eyes locked on his laptop screen, the same screen where the first line of TruePulse code had once been written. But now, everything had changed. On TV, news websites, podcasts, there was just one name echoing everywhere. Pulse Predict, by Vertex Innovations. And every time, Carson Blake would appear in front of the cameras in his trademark gray suit and fake smile, saying, "Innovation is all about vision, and we had the vision first." Ryan burned with rage. Every interview, every press release felt like a slap on his hard work. But Carson had no idea what Ryan was truly capable of. Just months ago, Ryan had first shared the concept of NeuroPulse with Carson. Carson had shown great interest. He'd said, "We'll pitch this together. You'll be the CTO. We'll make history, Ryan." Ryan had trusted him. After all, Carson was his senior from college, the same guy who helped him get into Vertex Innovations. But what Carson really wanted wasn't Ryan's talent, it was his idea. As NeuroPulse progressed, Carson's behavior began to shift. He started excluding Ryan from meetings, removing his name from documents, and holding one-on-one meetings with investors. At first, Ryan thought it might be part of some business strategy, but then the truth surfaced. Carson called a secret meeting with Vertex's investors. Ryan was told it was just a corporate alignment discussion, nothing he needed to be part of. But that very night, Ryan got a call from Liam, an old engineer at the company. "Hey, man. I don't know if I should be telling you this, but Carson just pitched Pulse Predict as his own creation. Word is, he's locking down $8 million in series of funding." Ryan's throat went dry. His hands started shaking. "What?" That's all he could say. "Yeah, and your name?" Not even mentioned once. Carson hadn't just stolen the idea, he had renamed it, rebranded it, and presented it to investors as entirely his own. He showed them the code, the interface, the models, everything built by Ryan, wrapped in a flashy pitch. Within a week, Carson's face was splashed across Forbes, Bloomberg, and every major tech outlet. Everywhere, the same line. The next big thing in predictive AI. But the final blow came when Ryan saw a new post on Vertex's website. Pulse Predict is a revolutionary AI platform, conceptualized and led by our very own Carson Blake. No mention of Ryan. No trace he ever existed. That night, Ryan tore through every system, old files, commits, emails, every possible proof of Carson's betrayal. But Carson had been careful, methodical. He had erased everything, legally. Every commit under Ryan's name was now gone from the company's repository. Carson had reassigned Ryan to a new, meaningless internal project. People whispered, "Ryan? Oh, he's in QA now, I think." Once hailed as the AI genius, Ryan was now known as the guy who peaked too early. But Carson still didn't know one thing. Ryan had embedded a backdoor protocol in NeuroPulse, a security key lock, encrypted and hidden deep in the core, one that could only be activated through his special cryptic passcode. And if Pulse Predict ever reached the stage of going fully live, that logic bomb would slowly begin its work. Ryan had made up his mind. If someone else is living my dream, they'll have to face its consequences too. This wasn't just about credit anymore. This was about justice. Carson Blake was busy celebrating his new success. At a high-end business club in San Francisco, where the city's wealthiest and most powerful sealed deals over glasses of wine, Carson stood in a gleaming suit, dripping with fake humility, telling investors that Pulse Predict was about to become the next big thing in the world. And honestly, he wasn't entirely wrong. There was a growing buzz around Pulse Predict. Investors were lining up, and talks of team expansion were already in motion. Now, all Carson was waiting for was one final milestone, the live user launch. But there was one thing Carson didn't know. Ryan Mehta never leaves anything incomplete, especially not something that comes from his soul. Months ago, when Ryan first began building the code for NeuroPulse, he realized something very clearly. In this city, power matters more than innovation, and power doesn't always end up in the right hands. So, in the final layer of code, he embedded Project Leviathan, a hidden protocol, a security layer so deep that even AI system experts wouldn't detect it. Project Leviathan was a logic bomb, a program that stayed completely dormant, unless a specific condition was met. The condition? If the code was launched live on any third-party server without his authorization, it would silently activate. Once triggered, it would begin to gradually slow down core functionalities, scramble data, and distort analytics. It would all happen so subtly, at first, that no one would even realize something was wrong. But the most critical part? The kill switch. The protocol was completely locked, and could only be disabled or reset using a password, a biometrically encrypted, 64-digit passcode that only Ryan possessed. He called it the endgame key. In the present, Carson's team was working round the clock to prepare for the PulsePredict launch. The servers were ready, front-end integrated, internal user testing underway. At first, everything looked perfect: clean reports, accurate predictions, lightning-fast response time. But then, weird things started happening. User data randomly disappeared from profiles. Clients began receiving bizarre recommendations, like a diabetic patient being advised to follow a fast food diet. The data team was baffled. Engineers were buried in bug fixes. It doesn't make sense. We didn't change anything in the logic layer, one senior engineer told Carson. Carson brushed it off as minor glitches, but as the anomalies piled up, so did his anxiety. Meanwhile, Ryan was watching everything, silently. He hadn't even accessed the Vertex system yet. He knew this battle wasn't about tech, it was about timing. His plan was clear: expose Carson in front of the world, without getting his own hands dirty. Ryan knew Project Leviathan had just been triggered, but the real chaos was still ahead. The system was now slowly beginning to unravel from within. And when things completely collapsed, Carson would have no choice but to admit that someone else was the true mastermind behind the code. One night, Carson got a call on his phone, from none other than the CEO of Sentinel Health Tech, their biggest client. "We had a disastrous demo. Your platform told our senior advisor he was likely to develop dementia within a year. He's 34, Carson." Carson's face turned pale. He immediately called for an emergency meeting. System logs were torn apart. Code was double-checked. And that's when they found it, an encrypted file, sitting silently in the core system. Endgame_protocol.auth. It required biometric authorization and a 64-digit passcode to open. Carson was in full-blown panic mode now. No one on the team knew the source of that file. But when they traced old GitLab logs, a single name kept popping up in fragments. Ryan. M.AI_root. Carson's hands began to tremble. He understood, this wasn't a mistake. This was Ryan's move. Damn it, he knew. He planned this from day one. From his apartment window, Ryan looked out at the glowing city skyline. The lights were the same, but his eyes now held a quiet peace. His dream had been stolen, but his plan was finally in motion. The next step? Confront Carson publicly. Or maybe just sit back and watch him fall apart, crushed by the very system he thought he owned. For Carson Blake, everything seemed to be going according to plan, or at least, that's what he believed. The launch date for PulsePredict had been finalized. Vertex Innovations had organized a grand event at a luxury convention center in San Francisco, inviting investors, tech journalists, and major figures from the healthcare industry. Carson wore the kind of confident smile that only winners usually get to wear. "Ladies and gentlemen, we give you the future of personalized intelligence, PulsePredict." Carson announced from the stage, and the audience applauded. The platform's interface went live on the big screen. Streaming began. Users started joining in real time. Everything looked smooth. At first. The first day passed without issues. Test users received predictions from the platform, diet suggestions, health alerts, mindfulness recommendations. But from the second day, the system began to act strange. One user, who had clearly mentioned in their health profile that they were vegan, got a suggestion for a high-protein barbecue chicken diet. Another user, who had noted a history of depression, was advised to have 2 drinks before taking a sleeping pill. And by the third day, a client company, MedDataBridge, reported a complete dashboard crash. Logs showed the AI model repeatedly resetting itself. Our patients are freaking out. Your system just recommended a suicide hotline to a perfectly healthy gym trainer. The CEO of MedDataBridge called Carson directly while he was at the airport, about to leave for another press tour. For the first time, sweat formed on Carson's forehead. He rushed back to the office and called an emergency meeting with the entire development team. Fix this. I don't care how, just fix it. But senior engineer Sarah had a strange look in her eyes. She quietly said, "We've checked everything. There's no malware, no external breach, but the system's acting like it's corrupted from the inside." Carson snapped. "Then how the hell is this happening?" Sarah, almost whispering now, said, "Maybe it was built this way." The room fell dead silent. Meanwhile, Ryan, still operating from outside Vertex, was preparing for something big. He launched a clean, anonymous website. www.neuropulse-origin.com. The website had just one thing on it, a recorded voice message from Ryan. "This is not a threat. This is the truth. Neuropulse was my creation. The code you're running is stolen, and it's rejecting its new master. Endgame has begun." He sent the link to a few tech bloggers, AI Reddit communities, and big names on tech Twitter. Within an hour, the video went viral. Panic swept through the Vertex Innovations office. Carson's investors started calling. One of them, Silicon Delta Ventures, even sent a legal notice. "You failed to disclose IP ownership risk. We want our $3 million back." Carson was now cornered. He had no answers, no exits. Inside the system, PulsePredict had already entered Phase 3 of the Leviathan Protocol, data loss. User data was now getting duplicated, scrambled, or disappearing completely. The support team had stopped answering phones. On social media, #PulsePredictScam was trending. Carson was falling apart. His nights were now spent in the company's back offices, repeatedly asking his remaining developers just one question. "Can we shut it down without losing everything?" And every time, the answer was the same. Not without the password, or the original developer. He had only one option left: reach out to Ryan. But this was the same Ryan he had betrayed. The same Ryan whose work he stole, whose name he erased, and who he humiliated publicly. Now, he was being forced to beg that very man for help. Ryan received Carson's email. "We need to talk. I was wrong." Ryan smiled. After all these months, the day had finally come when the truth shook the system to its core. Now, it was time for Carson to face the consequences of his own actions. Cold winds swept through the streets of San Francisco. Clouds hung heavy in the sky, as if the city itself was waiting for a long-hidden truth to finally come to light. Ryan Mehta powered up his old laptop, the same machine on which he had written the very first lines of code for Neuropulse. The time had come to peel back the final layer of Carson's lies. He compiled a document, complete with original Git logs, the deep structure of the Endgame protocol, and architectural screenshots of the AI. Everything, in meticulous detail. He titled it, "The Real Architect, Unmasking the PulsePredict Fraud." And then he sent it to top US media houses, TechCrunch, Wired, and The Verge. Within 24 hours, the internet exploded. On Twitter, Reddit, and LinkedIn, only one name was trending: Ryan Mehta. Whistleblower reveals stolen AI project. Vertex CEO exposed, credits stolen from young developer. The kill switch that saved the real inventor. On YouTube, tech analysts called the case a modern David versus Goliath. On subreddits, Ryan was being hailed as a code knight. And in the middle of this digital storm, the walls of Vertex Innovations began to shake. Carson Blake had finally broken down. At a press conference, when a reporter asked him, "Did you steal Ryan Mehta's code?" Carson paused for a moment, then bowed his head in front of the cameras and said, "Yes. I did. And I'm sorry. A sorry that meant nothing now." Investors pulled out. The Vertex board removed Carson from the CEO position. The company's valuation plummeted by 80%. PulsePredict was officially shut down. But Ryan hadn't just taken revenge, he had delivered justice. He uploaded all his original documents to an open-source platform, making one thing crystal clear. Transparency in tech innovation isn't optional, it's essential. And then, he made a new announcement. Introducing TruePulse AI, a new beginning, under the right name. Ryan restarted the same project, but this time, it was better, safer, and fully ethical. TruePulse's mission: to enhance people's health and lifestyles using AI, without stealing their data, and without corporate manipulation. This time, Ryan wasn't alone. He now led a team, including several senior engineers from Vertex who had quit in protest of Carson's actions. TruePulse launched at the Apple Theater in Silicon Valley. Standing on the stage, Ryan wasn't nervous. He was calm. Confident. This platform was born from betrayal, but it lives in truth. It's not just code, it's a cause. Applause erupted. The industry now knew who the real winner was. 6 months later, TruePulse was integrated into healthcare systems across 15 U.S. states. Its AI prediction model was listed by the UN under Ethical AI in Healthcare. Ryan had won the Tech for Good Young Leader Award. His TED Talk, How Code Can Carry Justice, had millions of views. And yet, through it all, Ryan still lived in the same apartment. Because for him, this wasn't about recognition, it was about restoring what was right. One evening, Ryan sat on his balcony, coding on his laptop. A message popped up. It was from Sarah. "You did it. And we all know now, you were the real one all along." Ryan smiled. He looked at his screen, no logic bombs, no backdoors, no kill switches. Just a clean, honest program, written to help people. And just like that, an idea that had once been stolen came back to life. This time under its true name.